Hey folks, welcome back. Sorry it's a little dark in here. If I put the overhead light on, it doesn't work, so I've got a desk lamp. We've got a hurricane coming through, so the skies are dark and all that. Climate change. I think it's the first ever to hit Baja California. Um, so, Chapter 6, Elements and Emergence. We're going to start to move what we've explored in the last couple chapters into action. And as I mentioned, the first half of the book, chapters 1 through 3, are more philosophical and historical that root us in really what's so. And now we're looking at what your organization can do to move this into the future. One of those things is you could share this entire series, the Purposeful Nation Director's Cut conversation, with your executive leadership team. That's one way to start to seed the soil here. Um, Obviously, in the links, there's other ways to do it. You can bring me in to consult, speak, deliver a workshop, uh, book club. It's up to you what you do next. So we'll begin with our pies check-in. And again, please join me in doing this yourself. So it's physical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual. Physically, feeling good. Yeah, slept great. Got to cuddle with my cat. Um, yeah, it's always nice. Intellectual. Yeah, I'm in this like intellectual quandary. I don't want to say I'm confused, but wondering how. So there's a book that I read and then led a book club through a little bit ago called Hospicing Modernity, and it is a real fire hose. Looks at all the ways that white supremacy, colonial modernity has embedded itself into all of our structures. So, you know, shorthand ego way, and the personal ways that we can decolonize our own thinking and feeling and sensing. And it's a scary book, and it's something that I've not really been able to talk to many business folks about because it essentially points to the end of modern industrial globalized capitalism. Because as the book suggests, that there isn't really a form of modernity. So anything from the far left to basically like state-controlled communism to far right, you know you're on your own, free market fundamentalism that doesn't require an underclass and usually a racialized underclass. So in a sense, Purpose Work Nation and just the broader move to conscious capitalism or B Corp is a transitionary stage, the one that we're entering into, that may or may not lead to the full collapse. But I think it'll actually surprise us once we start to live the values of the bison and harvest and celebrate all the great things that modernity has given us. What we might find on the other side might blow our minds. So I'm in that kind of how much truth to tell space, intellectually, emotionally. Yeah, um, defiantly joyful. That's it's a piece of my purpose practice that I do in the morning. Because I had asked to live in interesting times. Like I didn't want to live in the 80s suburbia. I didn't want that part of life to continue indefinitely for me. I wanted to live in a time of like great exploration, upheaval, ideas, adventure, and I'm connected to that right now. Like I feel like really joyful and glad that I'm alive at this time when all of this stuff is changing. Spiritually, yeah, not much to report there. Rooted, grounded. Um, One of these days, I'm gonna actually structure 45 minutes to 60 minutes of morning prayer. Not in a place like that right now. I'm very compressed running Unity Lab and doing this work. But yeah, I'd like to spend more time there. So let's dive into chapter 6, the final chapter. Of course, there's the conclusion, epilogue, appendices, acknowledgments, all that stuff after that. But this is the final course of hearty sustenance. Chapter 6, Elements and Emergence. You're playing, right? Said Miles, the captain of the Columbia Business School rugby team. Huh? Nah, man, I'm just here to watch. Gino invited me, I responded. Well, mate, he said in his British accent, we need you. We're short men. Have you played before? Nope. I've literally never even seen a game. I'm just here to watch. I would be of no use to you. We need you. We're short men. After a long pause, I said, okay, what do I need to know? Do you have extra gear? I'm going to need some Gatorade. Because I was pretty hungover at the time. 26, 27. I'll find you gear. Grab Gatorade across the street. Gino will explain the rest in the cab. We need you is a powerful phrase. It awakened something in me. It feels good to be needed. It feels even better to say yes to meet that need. In that cab ride from campus to the pitch on Roosevelt Island, Gino explained the game as best he could. Unfortunately, I was hungover, out of shape, and started cramping up during warm-ups. However, by the time the opening whistle blew, a switch turned on. I crashed the first ruck. It's basically a fight over the ball on the ground to secure ball position or possession. Popped up, crashed the next one, and so on. In those first 10 minutes, I was in about every play, in a flow state, where my sense of self and identity fell away and there was only the game. It brought me back to playing schoolyard tackle football. Just the endless joy of play. Present moment awareness, bodies crashing, full exertion, pure and simple fun. I caught the rugby bug, and the rest is history. I joined the team, got in shape, earned a starting position, and took a leadership role, and fell in love with the sport and culture. I loved my teammates, the practices, the matches, the collaboration, the road trips, the tournaments, the songs, and the awards. I love the sense of unity, of coming together with teammates from all corners, from Africa, Asia, Latin America, the Middle East, Europe, around our shared purpose, which, not super noble, but it was victory and a good time. This made the intense training and injuries of the sport feel important, even sacred. I was always a little sad when I pulled out my stitches as they held fond memories of the match and my mates. In my second year of business school, my friend Gabby and I started and coached the women's rugby club to share our love of the sport and culture with all of our classmates. It won't surprise you to hear that most of my best friends were once rugby teammates. I share this experience because it approximated the purpose of our diverse nation, helping bringing diverse people together around a common purpose, as well as a challenge now facing all leaders to act boldly despite having imperfect information and zero precedent. None of y'all have been in times like this before. When I said yes and got in that cab, the die was cast. Even though I had only a rough outline of what I was saying yes to, I learned the elements of the sport, of course, but the series of events, the joy, the creativity, the connections, the sense of belonging and mattering, and all the new ways I was able to grow, lead, contribute, receive after saying yes, nobody could have predicted. And that's what's going on right now for you as a leader. You are being asked to say yes, to bring forth all that you have within you, to lead and co-create the future. As we know, the old way of leading and developing people no longer works. Our understanding of the economy is far different than what is taught in traditional business education and corporate trainings. The American dream no longer fits the data and doesn't feed our souls. Likely never did. Customer, employee, and investor demands have changed dramatically. The democratic institutions upon which our economy depend and that we used to consider immutable are crumbling faster by the minute. The planet is becoming more hostile to life. If there ever was a time to boldly venture into the unknown with imperfect information, it is now. Unfortunately, activating an organizational, cultural, and leadership transformation is not going to follow a staid, linear progression. Our cosmos is dynamic, relational, and omnicentric, meaning multiple points are our center. It's emergent and co-creative. Ego leadership is anything but. It's linear in its thinking, contractual in practice, and exploitative in impact. Whereas bison leadership is responsive. It meets the dynamism, interconnection, and emergence as it is, and with common cause and agility. Moreover, every organization in every industry in size or maturity is different. So there is no one-size-fits-all approach to culture change. Like everything else that matters in your life, your marriage, family, community, saying yes to this adventure means paying attention to what is needed now and responding with both care and courage. When you say yes, the future you will step into will demand much more of you than you are currently capable of fulfilling. Pause there for a second. The saying goes, what got you here is not going to get you there. It goes from Marshall Goldsmith. So saying yes is saying to something that you cannot do as you are, only if you transform and unlock something new within yourself. And it will be far more rewarding than your current self is capable of envisioning. Axiom that I've developed or held true over time is that everything I've ever wanted, I've gotten. But it took way longer than I thought it would take. It looks nothing like I thought it would look, and it's way more fulfilling than I could have ever imagined. So my invitation to you is just say yes. Say yes to the adventure and be ready to roll the dice with the future, because we need it. We can't have any more of this CYA, keep the wheels on the bus until retirement stuff. The planet's burning, the people are suffering and dying. It's time. The reason for this is that by definition, the shape of a purpose-driven organization is unknowable until the purpose of each person in your organization comes alive and arises anew, moment by moment. This is a profound paradigm shift from the eagle's top-down expertise and knowledge approach to the bison's bottom-up purpose and agility approach. As Carlos Rey, PhD, and John San Cristobal Velasco, PhD, and Juan Almondos, PhD, assert in Purpose-Driven Organizations. It came out in 2019. Y'all should get that book. It basically is the leadership management strategy logic that is now required. Quote, the fulfillment of personal purpose within the organization is the essence of a truly purpose-driven organization. Strategy is based no longer on accurate predictions of the future, but on developing dynamic skills and capabilities that allow individuals and organizations to adapt rapidly. In this changing and uncertain world, employees no longer find solace in these top-down definitions of organizational purpose. The new logic of purpose requires people to lead the evolutionary process on their own with their purpose at work. End quote. As you are transformed by your purpose, your people are also transformed and turning on. You're flipping switches inside unique human hearts. You're weaving the social fabric of your company. You are activating an oblique and emergent logic, whereby an organization's purpose and each individual's purpose interact and innovate to meet and co-create the future. As the founder of Bimbo Bakeries aptly observed, the company has a soul made up of the souls of each of its workers. You are unique, as is everyone else who will discover and activate their purpose in your organization. Once activated, they will bring their fullness to work, their emotions, creativity, ethics, pain, dreams, and wounds. And in so doing, they will change you, your organization, and your future for the better. Your people will be empowered to voice their dissenting opinions, wild ideas, speak truth to power, and so you are in effect licensing your employees to cause good trouble, as John Lewis might say. This means that on occasion you will be called to look at your lack of integrity, because your employees will be empowered by having activated their purpose and values in their small, diverse groups, and because you've shown them your vulnerability and heartbreak, inviting them to bring their whole self to work, they will reveal weaknesses in your strategy, ethics, and leadership. Because they're enlivened and empowered, they will tell you when your plans aren't credible and when you are not being authentic. You're saying yes to authenticity and courage, to becoming fully alive, on purpose, warts and all. You're saying yes to the emergent possibilities of human creativity and the burning away of everything in your life and organization that is unaligned with our bison nature. You are going to make mistakes and maybe even cause or reveal a scandal. You'll learn from them, clean them up, try it again with new knowledge. As beautiful as our Constitution is, it was not complete when it was written. It needed amendments, plenty of them. So will you. You will never be done with activating the purpose of your people and organization. When you die or retire, there will be a long list of things that you wish that you got to do. It's important to accept the imperfection and implicit incompleteness of this journey so that you can just be here right now and create the conditions for everyone to play this game. So I invite you just to check in with yourself. As you approach the end of this book and start moving towards action, you might be feeling a good deal of fear. We've covered a lot of ground. Let's be frank. We're proposing an entirely new economic, cultural, and organizational paradigm. A shift from command and control and exploit to empower, connect, and create. Shepherding such a transition is a sticky wicket, to say the least, especially given the aforementioned political, economic, social, and ecological dysfunction, economic pressure, the unique personalities in your organization, their varying levels of growth and openness, and the simple fact that your job provides you and your family with food, housing, and healthcare. Taking a stand for a better world takes courage and resilience. To that end, please reach out to your book club and or your peers to share what you are experiencing, and contact my team at Unity Lab to develop your plan for building buy-in. As a reminder, if you notice your mental health declining, seek immediate help from a mental health practitioner. However, there are also many joys inherent in this approach. You will be nourished by the changes along the way, the thrill of the game, the big wins, the small gains. When roles fill quickly from employee referrals and people turn down bigger compensation packages to join your organization, your spine will tingle. You'll grin and give thanks. When journalists start asking about how you did it, you'll giggle and say, "Me? Yeah, right. Us. And some luck." So what is your next step? Although this book is not by no means a how-to manual, it's still important to have a rough outline of the important elements of the new reality we're moving into, so that we can take good guesses about what to do, how to do it, and when. Consider the following paragraphs your cab ride to the first rugby pitch. Your actual plan of action will depend on your unique organization, the needs of the people you serve, and those you call in to help guide the process. As you dump everything on the table in this Apollo 13 moment, consider what's the right approach for your organization. I want to share a handful of key elements that may be useful to guide your organization into the era of the bison. Element number 1, purpose to the people. Purpose is a human right. It is our key to a life of fulfillment, vitality, connection, innovation, and prosperity. Everyone has a right to discover and activate it. And when they do, everybody wins. Employees are happier, healthier, and more creative, connected, productive, and committed. Investors receive better returns. Accordingly, employee purpose is the foundation of authentic individual and organizational transformation, and you have the power to enable it at scale. Although we're empowering everyone to activate their purpose, it is important that the invitation is made from a place grounded not just in the idea of purpose. Lost my place. But from purpose. As such, consider beginning purpose activation work first with your executive leadership team. Empower them to openly share about their experience and engage the rest of the company. Finally, weave purpose and values reflection into onboarding in every DEI, L&D, wellness, and culture initiative. So you might be thinking, what if along the way you discover that someone's purpose cannot be filled in any way at your company? This does happen. In my experience, it occurs about 5, maybe 10% of the time. And yet the net effect of activating purpose is an average increase in tenure of 7.4 months. So not to worry. You are going to lose a few folks, but these good people will be thankful for their experience when their purpose is fulfilled in the next chapter of their career. Of course, when compared to the alternative, denying them the right to activate their purpose and allowing bullshit, toxicity, inequity to remain, and wasting a lot of human potential and the opportunity to be a part of a national renewal, it's a very small price to pay. As such, better questions to ask are, what if we don't empower them to activate their purpose and they stick around? What kind of representatives of our brand would they be? How would they lead? How would they impact our tenure, DEI goals, and morale? Element number 2, Golden Gate Bridge. As we've explored, people learn best together in small, diverse peer learning groups over time and in the flow of work. They also need big tent events to invite them on the journey, to celebrate their achievements, and to establish a collective sense that something new just happened among everyone. So I invite you to picture the Golden Gate Bridge, right? With its 2 tall towers supporting the entire bridge. Think of San Francisco as the current state of your business and Marin County as the future. Think of the bridge as a chronological line from shore to shore with pre-programmed leadership team and culture assessment and a group matching survey to optimize these peer groups for diversity, completed before the first tower. The first tower is that big tent event that introduces the program objectives, the guides, facilitators, and it is an opportunity for participants to understand the logistics, meet in their small groups, and get their questions answered. And think of the 5 small group sessions being stretched out between these 2 towers. The second tower, Big Tent event, is designed to recap the program, celebrate the wins, distribute certificates, and enroll folks in their next learning journey. The post-program assessment is then completed after the second tower / Big Tent event, which enables you to measure their progress in beliefs and behaviors versus the pre-program assessment. Consider that this approach, especially when centered in purpose and values reflection, is a blunt instrument that immediately goes to work on transforming your entire organization. People become more connected to themselves, their peers, and your organization. Social and emotional health improve. People are learning new skills and practicing inclusion in their small groups on a consistent basis. Element number 3, inclusive and digitally native culture. Most organizations are located in urban and suburban areas where housing is frequently expensive, making convening in the office a physical and economic barrier that often means long commutes and has a negative impact on the well-being of your employees and their families. In an ideal world, there would be abundant affordable housing within biking distance so folks could convene safely, easily, sustainably. Until that is the case, your approach must be digitally native, such that wherever folks are, they can participate and contribute on a level playing field. So think of virtual trainings, interactions, interventions versus a live on-site thing. This also breaks down silos between functions and teams spread across multiple locations, widens the pool for attracting diverse talent, and makes the organization more agile and adaptive to future scenarios like pandemics, climate change, shifts in public policy. Also just want to share that diverse candidates especially need the option to stay remote because of, like, if you have a purely ego culture, they have to make themselves really small to fit into it. They have to be significantly less female in their beliefs and behaviors, significantly less ethnic, diverse, Black, Indigenous, Asian in their beliefs and behaviors. And so requiring them to come into the office actually imposes upon them a psychological tax that white folks like me don't have to pay. So if you're going to stand for e pluribus unum, all created equal, you've got to meet folks where they're at. Give them the option. Okay. In addition to social learning approaches in small, diverse groups, also consider virtual events that have no immediately applicable economic end and are designed purely for fun. People need to laugh and connect. Consider delivering events that enable storytelling, show and tell, making art together, improv, one-on-one interviews and breakouts, games and Mad Libs. These sorts of digitally native culture activities ensure equitable participation and contribute towards the creation of a company's culture. Element number 4, company as a community with a mission. You might have begun to notice that the Bison Way is redefining what work is and what it means to us. A job is no longer a contract to perform a faceless task at a soulless company. Rather, it is both a covenantal mission, similar to the covenantal mission of the United States, and a mutually satisfying, sustainable contract of employment to fulfill one's purpose at work. It's about joining a community in service of a greater mission and entering into a contract for a living wage and benefits that improve the financial, physical, psychological, and social health of all parties. However, a community cannot form without a mission. The company's promise to deliver, its desired impact, live its values, and be guided by its origin story. So these also need to be developed, embodied, and communicated. Only then can a community be considered properly consecrated. It is also important to renew the mission periodically. Use each all hands and business unit gatherings as an opportunity to renew your mission. For example, exalt the impact of the work on customers, society, and planet, highlighting the commitment, community, and contribution that made it possible. Distribute the facilitation of these events among diverse people at all levels so folks feel that they are represented and are co-creating and achieving the mission. Instead of announcing promotions via email, induct the person via a more public ceremony by exalting how they exhibit the company values and highlighting their own personal purpose and values and passions. Invite others to share how this person has impacted them personally and made a difference for customers and community. To engender a sense of collaboration and shared success in this new role, encourage the recently promoted person to vulnerably share their purpose and their areas for growth, and all the help that they will need to be successful in their new role. So you might be getting that really what we're doing is building a church, right? We've used words like covenant, consecrate, community. So not an ideological cult that erases individuality, but a community with a mission that celebrates it and stands for it. So it's essentially a mini church of the United States. All created equal, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. E pluribus unum. So you're in a sense a minister of these sacred ideas. So occasionally you'll find yourself on the proverbial ropes, like a business downturn, loss of key talent, scandal, or some external political, economic, or environmental malady beyond your control, like a hurricane coming to Southern California. Like, what? How'd that happen? Use this as an opportunity to renew and be guided by your mission and values. Turn towards that mission and values and ask for guidance on how to shepherd the company and community through the dark forest. For example, instead of announcing layoffs, sending the message that certain people are expendable, communicate confidence that we're going to make it through this together. So the company is temporarily cutting all salaries by 90% over the living wage baseline. So that could be $70,000 US in today, 2022. It's critical that senior management shares equally, if not more than others, in the temporary sacrifice. During the early days of COVID-19 pandemic, the companies that did this engendered a greater loyalty. So I want to share just a quick story about the CEO from one of the circles that I lead. So during the pandemic, I believe in the first few months, I think his revenue decreased 70%. Like everyone canceled orders. And he decided that they were going to cut all senior management by 20% or by 50%, and everyone else by 20% who was making above a certain level. So when they announced this, there were people who were below that level like, I want to participate in this too. Just because I don't make as much money, don't rob me of the opportunity to sacrifice for this greater thing. And of course, it moved the CEO to tears. And so he did. He was like, okay, here's 20% less. A couple months later, started running the numbers, and like, okay, what's our worst case scenario for 2020? And they're like, okay, well, we make 50% of what we made in 2019. All right, can we still afford to pay everyone their full salary? And he looked at it with a few changes, like, yeah, actually we can. So they only did this for a couple months. So he gave them their full salary and paid them all their back wages. So just one example of we're all in this together. Like we have a covenant, a community, and we consecrate it with our words, deeds, and obviously the impacts that people want to be a part of it. They want to be a part of something that matters. Element number 5, purposeful leadership. Under this new paradigm of collective flourishing, everyone in leadership becomes a steward of the company's mission and values. So you might think of leaders as like the lay clergy. Their job responsibilities now include contextualizing work in terms of impact and the company's mission, values, and origin story, attending to the purpose and career development of everyone on their team, and empowering authentic connections among them. So this is kind of taking the servant leader or leader as coach thing to the next level. It's really a shepherding, a ministerial approach. Like, how deep is this person's connection to their purpose, the company's purpose, and each other? This means leaders model and share their purpose and find their own unique expression of the company's values. This means contextualizing priorities, initiatives, and individual contributions in terms of the mission and the impact on customers, society, and planet. So you're doing a lot of storytelling in this role, right? This means we activate everyone's purpose at work and co-create a purpose-led professional development plan with each team member. It means holding folks accountable to their purpose and career path. It means we tell stories and encourage others to tell stories about our challenges and successes. It means exalting the accomplishments of teams and, on occasion, nurturing good-natured competition between them, all in service of the shared mission. So this is not just like a kumbaya, like we're all one and everyone, lives on a kibbutz now. We want to like encourage people to playfully fight in a good way for the benefit of the business. So, identify an opportunity. Like, let's say somebody says, "Oh, we should, add a service offering onto this product." Okay, Brazil, Georgia, competition between you two to come up with the best ideas. And, just like make it fun and playful. This means that leaders take on, instead of delegating, the role of hosting, where we ensure that everyone gets what they need to flourish. We attend to the betweenness of things, nurturing connections between people, developing relationships across in-groups and out-groups, and empowering and sponsoring diverse candidates. This is the work that creates the wide bridges throughout the company, dissolving bottlenecks of information flow, building trust, and improving information transfer by breaking down silos and empowering innovation. This also means expanding the executive leadership team to include a chief purpose officer. Just pause for a second. There have been a lot of these things announced, and it's primarily like responsibility for ESG, DEI, community engagement, volunteering. That's not what I'm talking about here. So the Chief Purpose Officer is someone responsible for the ongoing realization of the individual and organizational purpose. Do not pile the new culture and purpose priorities onto someone who already has an existing full-time role and responsibilities. Hire at least one new person whose only goal is to support purpose and impact, ensuring that all culture change work is social, substantial, and sustained, impacting at minimum 25% of each business unit at each level of seniority and function, and is developed over the course of many years. It means aligning senior management with the goals of the chief purpose officer by tying roughly half of the executive leadership team's performance and compensation goals to the health of the community. So that's employee engagement, fulfillment, tenure, corporate social responsibility, social emotional health, DEI hiring, promotion and retention goals. It means administering the table stakes, so your CSR reports, transparent compensation and promotion policies, paying living wages, which is 4 times rent and mortgage with less than a 30-minute commute. Empowering flexible schedules, mental health services, 3 months of required paid paternity leave for all parents. So regardless of gender, you're off for 3 months. That way, essentially we don't put people at choice to like keep working and put all the burden and the work of parenting on one parent. So yeah, you have a child, you're married to someone who has a child, or you're with someone who has a child, you're off for 3 months. Once the table stakes are in place, the organization can be considered reasonably purpose aligned or consecrated. And to stay purpose accountable, consider becoming a B Corp and conducting and publishing an annual B Corp audit. So if you're not familiar with that, check it out, B Labs. Humans are imperfect and we cannot hold ourselves accountable. We need external sources to hold ourselves accountable. That's why we have things like, auditors and, folks like, Ernst & Young and Deloitte. So you need someone like some external accountability for your purpose and impact. And that's what that B Corp audit does. Of course, the process of developing people and culture is never done. It's never purely an internal affair. Much like the bison, organizations also exist in relationship to and are part of their surroundings. As such, it is incumbent for organizations to address the broader cultural, environmental, and societal issues by leveraging its voice, brand, and buying power, as companies such as Salesforce, Delta Airlines, and Patagonia do quite regularly, to shift the nation towards reckoning, repair, reconciliation, redemption, and renewal. This takes the form of quickly and wisely speaking out when the company's values are being desecrated with respect to emerging issues related to racial injustice, climate change, universal health care, voting and electoral integrity, infrastructure, parental leave, etc. So again, you notice how I'm using these words like desecrate. When a politician or a governing body does something that desecrates the purpose of the United States, that desecrates your mission and values, that desecrates your purpose, your personal purpose and values, it is incumbent upon you as a leader to speak out. Call it for what it is. Like, this is pure corruption. This is a desecration, a violation of what we hold sacred here. Further, it is critical to support organizations such as Business for America, BFA.US. My friend Sarah runs that organization, and they do amazing work on electoral integrity, civics education, but it's basically a group of businesses that support the American democratic experience. And that means not corrupting it, not turning the arm of government into a lackey for commercial interest. As well as issue1.org that protect our democracy and civic virtue. So issue1.org is essentially a group of folks who are committed to getting money out of politics so that we can actually have a functioning government. And affirm a mutualistic and high integrity connection between our economic and democratic institutions. Element number 6, triage from the heart. There will be hard moments. Of course, there always have been, and these last few years have been extremely difficult to say the least. Perhaps you've noticed that you're developing a skill set in crisis management. That's great. Accordingly, it's good to have a framework for moving through future crises, which are guaranteed. That climate change is coming for all of us. In every culture, there are acute issues such as missed DEI targets, low retention, burnout, pay inequity, low engagement, parents not returning from parental leave, and systemic cultural issues such as income inequality, systemic racism, sexism, workism. Basically means like you worship hard work for no other reason than bragging about how hard you work. Hyper-individualism, homophobia, political polarization, erosion of trust, lack of transparency, and poorly developed power skills like critical thinking, emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, purposeful leadership practices. Systemic issues cause acute issues, and sometimes they collide and overlap in a perfect storm, resulting in a collective trauma and/or scandal. Collective trauma is the emotional, psychological, and cultural response to the immediate loss of something we hold sacred. For example, after 9/11, or George Floyd's murder, or the January 6th attack on the Capitol, or a disgruntled employee shoots up an office. Scandal is when acute or systemic issues are revealed publicly, such as a sexual harassment suit, corruption, BIPOC employees filing a discrimination suit, or harmed customers are filing a suit. Each acute and systemic issue needs to be addressed uniquely and simultaneously versus sequentially. So what this basically means is you got to name it. Like, here's all the stuff that's broken. Like, we're not going to calendarize how we address scandal. Like, we're going to do it now. We're going to rip off the scab, pour hydrogen peroxide into the wound, apply a salve and a bandage, and do the right thing. We're not going to wait. We're not going to wait on our systemic or our acute issues. So, acute issues need expert outside facilitators and consultants to immediately release the pressure, to give people a place to speak, share their experiences, heal, grieve, and learn new skills and practice them together. Each manager also needs an immediate intervention in order to effectively and compassionately hold space for each of their team members' experience and empower them with individual resources, such as paid time off and therapy, and social resources, such as support groups, ERGs, to process the acute issue. Systemic issues need to be dealt with in a swift, substantial, and sustained fashion by committing resources and leveraging scalable and effective culture change methods to deepen relationships and develop new beliefs, behaviors, and skills. Collective trauma and scandal require the aforementioned responses to the acute and systemic issues, as well as an immediate public acceptance of responsibility, disclosure of the amends being made, a plan to address the acute and systemic issues, and the amount of financial resources being committed, and the cadence of reporting on that commitment by hiring an outside firm to hold them accountable to it. So where to begin? How can you implement and leverage these elements? That depends on your company size, industry, maturity. But these matter far less than the approach you take to begin the conversation. That said, if you're currently embroiled in a scandal, then start with the triage process described previously. If you aren't in the middle of a scandal and are intent on activating Bison ethics in your organization, I invite you to be transparent and humble in your approach, trusting that the hearts, minds, and souls of your people will rise to meet each challenge ahead. Your approach could follow this progression of stages. Stage 1. Humbly make the invitation. Share your vision for becoming a new kind of company, one driven by an inspiring purpose, where social, economic, and environmental impact is generative and quantifiable, where power and wealth are more equitably distributed, where culture is deliberately crafted, where work is fun, where everyone fulfills their potential, where learning is social and ongoing. And also admit that you are entirely unsure exactly what all this looks like. So share that it begins with activating our unique individual purpose and values together, building deeper relationships, and then collectively asking, who are we for the world? It's going to be a long journey with no known destination, So welcome all wild ideas and dissenting opinions. It will be messy, and we'll make mistakes, and may even reveal a scandal or two. But together we'll learn from them, do better tomorrow, and celebrate the transformation. If you're in for the adventure, join us. We're going to begin a process as a whole company to activate our individual purposes and bring them to work. If this doesn't sound fun or purposeful, then we understand. We will be sad to lose you, but we'll help you find your next job and ensure a smooth transition. So like I said, it's like a humble, we're in this together, not sure what this looks like, but I know it begins in our hearts. That's really all it is. Stage 2, administer. So once you've made the invitation, hire your chief purpose officer, and then activate employee purpose in small diverse groups, beginning with the executive leadership team, then the frontline managers, then everybody else. Equip your CPO with the power and resources to deliver wellness, DEI, and CSR table stakes, and align incentives for senior leaders with the goals of the chief purpose officer. Next, weave purpose and values activation into existing onboarding, leadership development, DEI, wellness, and culture efforts. So I know previously I said 25% of each level, and here I'm advocating something slightly different. So yes, in the end, we want 25% of each level, but it's critical that the executive leadership team is speaking from purpose, not about purpose. So they're actually embodied when they're saying this. And then the managers, the culture stewards, do this. And I'm not saying do this 1 year, then the next year. I'm saying like ELT begins in September, managers begin in October, everyone else in November. So it's happening pretty much all in the same quarter. So stage 3, co-create and consecrate the organization's mission and values. After the ELT has developed a connection to their individual purpose and values, hire a facilitator. So you can see Appendix A for some folks to reach out to convene the ELT to either refresh the company's mission, values, and origin story, or generate a first draft. Your facilitator will move you through a process with questions such as, what is our origin story? What are the values we can discern from this story? What values do we see most in action? What behaviors will we not tolerate under any circumstance? If we were about to be acquired by a private equity firm, would we fight to stay independent? If so, why? If not, what would we need to change our minds? Is the net impact of our operations generative after all social, economic, and environmental externalities are accounted for? As it currently functions, should our company continue to exist? Which of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals are we best suited to impact? What must we change to be truly the best solution to advance these goals? If we were guided by a higher purpose and a generative strategy, worthy of all the resources we consumed, what are the very first things that we should do? Then share the ELT's aggregated answers to these questions with the whole company. And by this point, the whole company will have completed their personal purpose and values, so they're going to be online. And invite anonymous employee feedback. Review the ELT's answers and employee feedback and formulate a revised draft of the mission and values that will guide the company, well, in the story too, that will guide the company over the next 2 to 3 years, after which it will again be revisited and reimagined. So this is a continual ongoing process because we have to be agile. The world's changing. There will be new challenges, new opportunities. So this has to be a recurring collective, active reflection. So with your good enough mission and values in place, consecrate the mission and values. This means dedicating the company to the mission and values in feel, form, function, and shape. How you consecrate them depends on your answers to these questions. How do our values guide our interactions, meeting design, team structures? How must our business model evolve to express our mission? How do our values guide our approach to client service? How does the mission impact the local community, our country, the planet? How do our values shape our all hands gatherings, events, and culture? How do our values tangibly express themselves in the design of our physical locations? What do we hear, see, feel, sense when we're there? What does it mean to be an employee, a member of a community devoted to a mission? What is a values-led approach to the entire employee experience and life cycle? Stage 4. Empower teams to align key business processes with the mission and values and remove bullshit. Once employee purpose activation is complete, ask the leaders of each business line and function to come up with a business and culture vision for how they could be reimagined with the mission, values, and market trends in mind. To build community buy-in and shared success, review these business units and functional visions at a series of all-hands meetings, with a public commitment to helping each employee develop a career path that fulfills their purpose. Remember, roles around souls. It's critical that people feel that their employment is secure, especially since, as you likely know, roughly 50% of the current roles and responsibilities are bullshit, meaning they have no real purpose or positive impact, could disappear tomorrow without anyone noticing, and often include functions such as subordinating others, box ticking, and duct taping broken processes. It's critical to begin a process of unpacking and hauling out the bullshit. Invite employees to share the processes and interactions that energetically drain them and voice their dissenting opinions and the synergies they see. Invite them to question job roles and responsibilities that are unaligned with the organization's mission and values or otherwise bullshit. Share out the aggregated feedback and empower each business line and functional leader to incorporate the feedback and revise their team vision and roles. Business unit and functional leaders then develop a 2 to 3 year plan to implement the revised mission and values with quarterly updates that measure progress, integrate team and customer feedback, and emerging market realities. So I don't mean emerging markets, but just the emerging realities of what's going on in the market. Align the team's performance and compensation with the plan and ensure that culture development metrics are given equal weight to business strategy. When in doubt, trust people and empower them to take risks. Have faith that people's purpose and values will rise to meet the challenges and uncertainties. The Garden of Emergence. However, what you actually do next versus the progression above depends on your listening, tending, and intuiting. As a leader, it's helpful to think of yourself as a gardener of a diverse ecology. As gardeners, till the soil and pay attention to sunlight, water, growth, fruiting, and flowering, as well as to weeds, disease, and overgrowth. Leaders tend a space where every person can discover and activate their purpose on the job and remove the bullshit getting in the way of their flourishing. As retired 4-star General Stanley McChrystal said, "A gardener grows nothing. Plants do that. That's what plants are designed to do, and they're really good at it. But the gardener's role is not unimportant. All the things the gardener does to create an environment and ecosystem allows the plants to do what they do, and do it very, very well." Slightly more humanistic than what Bobby Knight, basketball coach, said. I get people to do things they don't like and then do them well. So in addition to thinking of yourself as a minister, or running a ministry, also think of yourself as a gardener. Like, the health is in the soil. If you create the right conditions with the healthy soil, with the right amount of sunlight, and shade, and water, they're going to flourish. You don't have to carrot and stick them and beat them into submission. Just give them what they need. So in addition to planting, pruning, watering, and staking off the perimeter, we must pay attention to how each plant is responding to changes in other plants and the environment. Do they need more or less sun, more or less water? Are they avoidant of dissimilar plants? Or do they flourish best together like the three sisters? That's corn, squash, and beans. Most importantly, as every master gardener knows, you're not raising plants so much as you are cultivating the soil. Soil, soul, humus, human. cultivate, culture, habitat, habits. You are paying attention to the soulfulness present in professional relationships. Are your people vulnerable, caring, innovative? Innovative. Do they get excited? Are they sharing their wild ideas and dissenting opinions? Are they sharing about their families and struggles? Are they growing? What is the feeling, the sentiment, the unseen and unspoken, the betweenness in life and work of your people? Are they bringing their whole selves to work? Are they enthusiastically contributing to culture? Do they claim the company's mission as their own and innovate on its behalf? Is there a palpable sense of aliveness? For example, if diverse folks still aren't being promoted, or people still aren't returning from parental leave, guess what? You likely have sexist, racist, ageist, ableist, and heteronormative biases poisoning the soil. If you grow healthy soil and pay attention to the needs of each plant, they flourish. Cultivate purpose and belonging. Consecrate the mission and values. Celebrate soul, empathy, creativity, courage, and vulnerability. Give each person what they need to thrive. And compassionately weed out the bullshit. When you do, you will have created a place where everyone belongs, is cared for, and feels fulfilled. Imagine what kind of partner, parent, and team member, what kind of partner and parent a team member will be after a workday full of belonging, learning, creativity, and fulfillment. Imagine how they will communicate with their loved ones while preparing for work. Imagine how they will show up with their extended family and in their community. Imagine yourself being responsible for having begun this process, for listening to your people, empowering them to activate their purpose, making your organization a place where everyone can flourish and collectively prosper. Imagine facing uncomfortable truths about yourself and your leadership. Imagine learning from these lessons, growing, and transforming into a more full version of yourself, alive and on purpose as a leader. Imagine a country where this is the new normal, where hundreds of thousands of leaders like you have activated purpose and belonging at scale. Imagine that we are successful, and purpose and belonging are now givens, just simply what it means to be a human being, to live on Turtle Island. What's possible now? How might our culture shift? How might this impact our democratic and civic virtues? Healthcare, education, transportation, community development, public safety. Whatever your vision is for this new world, it begins with you and your organization. We cannot wait. As we've explored, the most vulnerable people in your care are suffering under your watch. The republic is falling, and it's not possible to have it all figured out in advance. We must move. Now. We need you. Chapter 6 Summary. These are unprecedented times requiring bold action, humility, trust, purpose, agility, constant learning, and collaboration versus the eagle's expertise, knowledge, and hierarchy. Begin your organization's transformation with these elements: employee purpose activation, a Golden Gate Bridge pedagogy, an inclusive and digitally native culture strategy, redefining a company as a community with a mission, purposeful leadership practices, and triaging crises from the heart. The path to change varies for each organization, but may follow a progression through stages such as humbly making the invitation, administering employee purpose activation, hiring a CPO, and enacting table stakes, consecrating the organization's mission and values, aligning the business and mission, aligning the business with the mission and values, and weeding out the bullshit. So, your reflection questions for your book buddy or study group. When have you ventured boldly with imperfect information? As you think about shifting from a top-down strategy and expertise orientation to a purpose and agility orientation, what fears and concerns arise? What fears and concerns arise about leading with vulnerability and humility? For example, sharing with your board and team that you don't have total clarity and you'll have to discover it together. If you were to allow the metaphor of the gardener to guide your leadership, what new actions would you take at work? What bullshit roles and responsibilities would you need to transform or remove? So, folks, thank you. We're almost there. In our next video, we'll explore the conclusion, the epilogue, the acknowledgments, and some of the appendices. Thank you for being with us on this journey. I'll see you again soon.